Hello, my name's Amy. I'm an indie author with 15 published books, and today I am going to be talking about my goals for Q4 or quarter four. That is October, November and December of 2025. So grab yourself a cuppa and let's get into it. First of all, let's do a quick recap of where my writing is at so far. I have spent the majority of August and all of September working on a cozy fantasy which is currently called Project Wardens. Now it does actually have an official title and even a cover already, so look out for those in a future video. I've been drafting this one pretty quickly. I have been vlogging quite a lot of the process, and my word counts for this one have alternated between about 1,500 and 2,000 words a day. As I sit down to record this video, I have over 60,000 words of the draft. I have made really swift progress on this book. It has been a joy to write. And going back a little bit further, earlier this year I released an epic fantasy dragon rider novel called Shadow Dragon. That one, by contrast, took me much longer to write. It is nearly twice as long as Project Wardens. It was many years in the making, and it is the first book in a considerable series, certainly compared to anything I've written before. So both of these books are going to make an appearance in my goals for the next 3 months. So we've got the bullet journal, let's talk about them. The really obvious one, of course, is that I want to wrap up Project Wardens. I have a target date of around the 10th of October to finish this draft. I am on track to wrap it up a little bit early, but of course a lot could happen between now and then. This is the first time in a while that I have written a book so quickly and with such a strict deadline, but I think because it is on the shorter end of the first drafts I write, it's gone pretty smoothly, and I'm fairly confident about hitting that date. So that really only takes us into the first couple of weeks of October. After that, I really plan to get into the edits of Project Warden quite quickly. My goal is to have at least my edits completed by the end of October. Now this is really quick for me. I tend to draft quite fast and edit very slow, and I am trying to speed up the process this time round. This really is an experiment. I have no idea if it's going to work. Typically a book of this length would take me more like 4 or 5 months to edit. So if I can get through my early rounds of revision by the end of October, I will be incredibly pleased. And what happens after that is a little bit up in the air. It will depend on what feedback I get from first readers after my edits are complete. That will affect how many more edits I then go on to do on the book, and how long it takes me to get into the stages of copy editing, proofreading, formatting, and getting the book ready for publication. My goal really is to work through all these stages as quickly as possible. I would love to have the book available to buy in November, but that is a really tight time scale, and I do know that. So I have ambitious goals for this one which may or may not work out. I am prepared to push things back a bit if the book needs more work based on feedback, if my own edits take longer than I think, or if I just decide I want to give the draft more time to breathe. It is unusual for me to jump straight from a first draft into the editing process. I would usually give a draft a good 2-3 weeks, sometimes many months before I go back to it. I would really like Project Wardens finished and out of the way quicker than that, which is why I am trying to speed everything up this time. But like I said, this is an experiment. I'm really just trying to push myself to see how quickly I can get from the very beginning stages of the draft to publication. Project Wardens is, to be honest, a bit of a guinea pig on this one. So if all goes to plan and Project Wardens does see a release in November, crossing my fingers for that, what happens next? The answer is I will be going back to the sequel to Shadow Dragon. I suppose we could call this Project Dragon Book 2. Now, I already have more than half of the first draft of this one. I spent the late spring and early summer of this year powering through that. However, I got to the stage where it just needed more thinking time and breathing time, which is why I jumped over to Project Wardens as a bit of a palette cleanser. I have a release date for Project Dragon 2 in April or May of 2026, so I will need to get back to it by the end of this year. So my second big goal for quarter 4 is really to wrap up the draft. Now, there are two parts to this one because nothing is ever simple in my writing life. First of all, I would really like to read through the half of the draft that I already have. And what comes next, once again, depends on what I find there. If I'm happy with it, I will go back to my outline, revamp that and just finish up the draft. I suspect though I am going to want to make changes, which means that I may spend the end of November and December actually editing the first half of the Dragon sequel so that I can finish the draft with a bit of a clean slate next year. I am really looking forward to going back to this one. I put it aside because I was feeling a little bit burnt out, but in the intervening months I have had so many ideas about what I want to do with the book, how I'm going to tweak the setting, how I want to change aspects of the plot and character arcs, and I'm really keen to go back and implement these changes. One thing I have really learned across my writing career is that some books just need more time than others. Project Wardens, by comparison, came together so quickly. Although if you've watched my previous vlogs about that book, you will know that there were various versions of Project Wardens that never got past the first few chapters, so I suppose there still has been a thinking process there. But these dragon books just need more time. They are really big books. I am expecting a first draft of around 140,000 words, and my edited version will probably be longer than that. And this is the second book in a series that may stretch to 9 or 10 books altogether. So I have to be very careful and intentional about what I put into the plot in this second book. I have done a lot of planning already. I know how it ties into the wider series, but I think this extra thinking time is going to do it a world of good. So those are my big writing goals for quarter 4. I want to finish the draft of Project Wardens, I want to edit it thoroughly, and then depending on how the editing process goes, I will be either doing more edits or heading straight into publication. And then I have Project Dragon Book 2, which will either go through a round of edits before drafting, or I will be straight into drafting the second half. That is a lot to get through in 3 months of the year, and I do know that things might need to be pushed back. However, my work life is generally a little bit quieter this time of year. November and the start of December this year are looking very quiet indeed, so I am looking to writing really to pick up the slack. It would be really nice to have some weeks where I am just writing and not worrying too much about my day job. And the other smaller goal for quarter 4 is to just keep making videos. I have really enjoyed returning to AuthorTube this summer, making vlogs again, chatting about my writing. It has been an absolute joy. I hadn't really realised how much I was going to miss it until I gave this channel up. So I have lots more ideas for vlogs ahead. I am aiming to put out a video every single week. I will say I have kind of given up other social media to make this happen. I haven't touched my author Instagram account in, I don't know, a year possibly at this point. I am pretty inactive on Blue Sky. I don't really use Facebook or Threads or X or whatever else is out there these days. I did briefly try TikTok and decide it wasn't really for me. So YouTube is my focus. I just love the community here. I love watching other people's videos. And it has been really nice this season to fully embrace that and just decide that all those other platforms are not for me. Now, I would love to say I have loads of other lifestyle goals to go with these writing ones, but I don't really, quite honestly. I would love to get out and do some autumn hiking. If the weather is amenable, I want to be out on the hills as many weekends as possible. We're also making great progress on our barn conversion. We have nearly finished laying our underfloor heating pipes, and more concrete should be arriving next week. But above all, really, Q4 for me is going to be about the words. Getting Project Wardens wrapped up, making as much progress as possible on the Shadow Dragon sequel, and documenting it all here on YouTube. So now I would love to know what your goals for this season are. Are you slowing down as we come into autumn and winter? Or are you perhaps putting aside more active hobbies and really getting back to the writing like I am? Please let me know down in the comments. I would love to know what everyone is up to. Next time I have another vlog in the works. This one, fingers crossed, is going to be an epic fantasy reading vlog, although you may also see the vlog of finishing the draft of Project Wardens first, depending on how the writing goes. Until then, keep writing everyone, and I'll see you next time.